When you're first starting your PriceLabs account, you should definitely pay close attention to your base price and how the system is recommending you adjust it every like 2-ish weeks until you see the pace of your bookings come in at a pace that you're used to seeing, right? It's important because it's basically the starting value of every adjustment on PriceLabs, right? We take your base price and that's the number that we adjust up and down with your seasonality, your demand, and your lead time adjustments, all of those other things. For established accounts that have been with us for a while, I would say you can adjust your base price like quarterly or yearly.
Welcome to RevLabs by PriceLabs.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of the RevLabs podcast brought to you by PriceLabs. So this is one of those episodes where we try to get put a human face on top of PriceLabs. And today I'm with Aviva. Aviva is a solutions consultant in the US. You'll get to know her, get to know where, how she started with revenue management, how she got to start with PriceLabs, her favorite tips for large portfolios. Let's just do that. Aviva, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. And we're recording this right now. I think it's pretty cool out there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So where are you based?
I'm based in Chicago, so it's extra cold because it's the end of January. We usually get a cold snap right about now.
So I'm just being super curious here, right? So did you grow up in the Midwest? I used to, you know that I lived for 2 years in Chicago. Love this windy city.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Did you grow up in the Midwest?
I did. I was born in Arizona, and then we moved to Chicago when I was about 5. So I spent most of my life here. After I bounced around a bit during college, but mostly Chicago. I like it here.
And so what's your role at PriceLabs?
I'm a solutions consultant. I started at PriceLabs as the first support person, so I've been here for a while. So my background at PriceLabs was in support, so like my knowledge of like product issues or like how the product actually functions is pretty good, which is helpful as a solutions consultant, especially when dealing with customers who have relatively large portfolios, because then when issues arise, it's relatively easy for me to help them fix things. And then I've sort of evolved as the years have gone on as into a solutions consultant.
I find it super interesting because in a way the company grew and you grew with the company as well, right? And also what I find fascinating, I don't know if you see that, but I do find a lot of people who've been in the company for a while. I worked in tech before, and there's a lot of revolving doors and people leaving. So is it also your impression that people tend to stick with PriceLabs, and why do you think so?
People do tend to stick at PriceLabs. There are a few of us who have been around for quite some time. It's a really solid product, and it's a very interesting product to work with because the product has continued to evolve. And then if you are a person who likes like numbers and data and talking to people, it's also a really fun job, at least for the customer facing part, because I don't know, pretty much every job I've had before this has either involved a lot of like explaining data or explaining processes to people. So I've always enjoyed jobs like this. And then the actual company to work for, like the people who work here are very, I don't know. I think because we all enjoy that data aspect of it, we seem to get along really well, even though as the company has grown relatively rapidly, there's a nice sense of community within PriceLabs.
So if you're listening to this, watching this, and you also like geeking out on data, you are part of family. So you alluded to the jobs you had before. So take us through that. How, what was your career like? What was your first job, and how did you go from there? to go to PriceLabs?
Well, I was a journalism student initially.
Ooh.
I was studying to be a copy editor. So like minutia has always been kind of my jam, I guess. And while I was in my final year of school, I got a job as I don't know, I don't remember my title, but I was working on putting together a manual for rapid HIV testing implementation
Oh wow.
for the state of Illinois, because rapid HIV tests were just being released, and they were doing a project that for the entire state requiring HIV test results for all pregnant women, because if you administer antiretrovirals during labor, it reduces the transmission of HIV to the infant by 75%. So
Data.
you can do
That's
a rapid.
very, very important data, right?
It is very important data. So if you do a rapid HIV test while a woman is in labor, you can like administer antiretrovirals and like get all of this stuff done. So I was helping to like write the manual on how to counsel a woman, administer the test, and train nurses, working with the CDC in the state of Illinois and the Illinois Department of Public Health, things like that. So my journalism background took me there, and then I ended up doing a lot of like detailed training data or detailed training literature writing, and then also the like data management aspect of it for the reporting to the CDC. So and then after that I worked in politics for a little while, so I did a lot of like FEC reporting, and I used to make like voter guides, so compiling voter logs for all of the Congress and Senate, like every single vote that they did, and like committee votes and all of those things. And then I worked after that for a very long time at a polymer flooring company. So that was also a lot of like data and numbers, because you have to take takeoffs from a floor. So take the area of the floor and then translate that into the number of gallons of product that you need. So we worked at a liquid flooring company. So take the square footage of the floor, look at the spread rate of the product, translate that into the number of gallons that you need, which then you have to calculate the weight of the product to estimate shipping time and cost and all of that. So lots of numbers and talking to people about numbers and explaining spread rates. And it was a lot of chemical resistant floors. So then you also have to talk about whether or not you need epoxy or urethane floors, whether or not they need to be like thermal shock resistant or electrostatic dissipated floors, things like that.
I like this because it also talks to how curious you are, right? Because these are very diverse topics. And how did you bridge out to revenue management? Or so was it really the support side? I'm very curious now.
It was more the support side. So after the flooring company was ultimately bought out, and I had a relatively restrictive non-compete agreement because I had very detailed product knowledge there. And so I couldn't work in any sort of paint and coatings industry. And while I was a temp somewhere, I found a job posting for somebody that was good with numbers and Excel. So that is me. So PriceLabs was actually the very first like full-time job I applied for as I was looking for a job after having my second kid. And now I'm here, and I've been here for quite some time.
So that's pretty cool, and so great to have you here. And as you said, so I guess you've seen quite a few of those, people with large portfolios, many listings over the years, and probably how many years did you start? How many years ago did you start at PriceLabs, you think?
About 5.5.
5.5, right? So I can imagine. So let's just, before we start with the portfolios, of course, if you're looking at the product today, that must be quite different from what it was 5 years ago. I think, was I already a user 5 years ago? Maybe, I don't remember. I think I was pre-COVID, right? Yes, yeah, I was, I think. I'm pretty sure I was. What do you think is the biggest, if imagine you are taking the viewpoint of a large people with large portfolio, what is the biggest difference you think they would notice between now and 5 years? There's pretty lot of things. What would you think is the biggest thing you would notice?
For a large portfolio, the multi-calendar was huge.
Mm.
Portfolio analytics and market dashboards, also huge. I mean, market dashboards coming out in the spring of 2020 was, and then being able to use that at the group level with the portfolio analytics is like so incredibly useful.
If I'm not a PriceLabs user, can you explain again what what market dashboard does and why would I want to use it in my dynamic pricing tool? What's the benefit? And on a group level.
Sure. So early in the PriceLabs days, we had the base price help, right? Which was, helpful. It was just like 3 lines on a chart for a while, which was, if I don't know if you remember the like orange, blue, and whatever the other color was, maybe green. Anyway, it was just like 3 lines on a chart of market data. And so in 2020, or we had started this like scraping project, and in 2020, we released the market dashboards, which sort of lets you pull in a really big amount of market data and then make your own super detailed comp set rather than having to use the like 350 listing comp set that you're assigned per listing. And what the market dashboards does for a large portfolio is let you create a comp set based on like a group of listings that you have. So for a large portfolio, if you have a group of like 4-bedroom houses with pools that are in various parts of one area, you can pull a market dashboard over a larger area and then create a larger group of those 4-bedroom houses with pools, or maybe do like a 4 to 6 bedroom or what have you. And then instead of going listing by listing through your neighborhood data to look at pricing and occupancy comparisons for the market, you can pull your whole group of 4-bedroom listings into your portfolio analytics and then compare collective performance there with your market dashboard comp set. So it's just like a big time and effort saver, basically.
Now, talking again about these people with large portfolios, and some people are doing a really good job, right, managing these listings. What are like a few things that you see, like 2 things you see people doing that are very good, like a great way to use PriceLabs to manage such large portfolio outside of using groups?
Outside of using groups, figuring out ways to automate manual work that they're doing. I mean, some of that is doing it at the group level, right? But like if you notice that you're putting the same adjustments onto multiple groups, think about ways in which you can either like use the subgroups or combine groups, or maybe consider account level customizations, or ask a solutions consultant how you can automate what you're doing. Because if you're making multiple clicks in order to like accomplish a task, right, there's likely a solution within the product that can automate that for you.
Oh, I like this. If you think that's cumbersome and in multiple clicks, ask support@pricelabs.co. If you have a solution consultant, ask them, right? There may be a solution out there.
Right. One thing I see a lot of people doing is like repeated date specific overrides on the multi-calendar for individual listings. And for large portfolios, if you're still doing that, we can definitely automate something to help reduce the amount of work that you're putting into adjusting your rates every day. Whether it's with like the portfolio-based occupancy adjustments, going over how you can set group or account level overrides, something like that, adjusting your last minute discount. There has to be some kind of way to automate what you're doing. And it might be an out of the box solution, but like there has to be something, right? You should not be having to like manually click and drag over every single day to adjust your rates.
Yeah, so if it looks a bit cumbersome, basically, first, maybe you should be not happy with the product marketer, so me, who's maybe not making very clear how to use stuff. And second, you could be very happy talking with people like Aviva to find a way that's there was a feature, but maybe it was not big, obvious to find. and sometimes it is tricky, right, to make sure we show the right features to the right people. That's also why we have real real people helping out. Let's go about the one mistake. What is maybe a common mistake or something you've seen several times for people with large portfolios? It can be anything, that on the way you use the product or the way they're thinking about revenue management. Of course, in many cases things are a bit different, but what is one thing you would like to pick?
A large mistake for large portfolios. Well, the repeated clicks. Like, I think a lot of large portfolios, I love that we can land on the multi-calendar now, but then people do spend still a lot of time setting those like date specific overrides for the unbooked days that they see in the next like 30, 60 days on their multi-calendar. Where if they are landing there and they're still setting those days, are they not going to the dashboard to see if they need to adjust their base price or their minimum price? When was the last time you did adjust your base price or your minimum price? Like, are you revisiting
the base price?
Yeah.
So why is the base price so important? People say, I've not done this, why should I do it? Why is it important, and how often should I do that?
Well, when you're first starting your PriceLabs account, you should definitely pay close attention to your base price and how the system is recommending you adjust it every like 2-ish weeks until you see the pace of your bookings come in at a pace that you're used to seeing, right? It's important because it's basically the starting value of every adjustment on PriceLabs, right? We take your base price and that's the number that we adjust up and down with your seasonality, your demand, and your lead time adjustments, all of those other things. For established accounts that have been with us for a while, I would say you can adjust your base price like quarterly or yearly. It really depends on the customizations you have in place. Like, are you using the seasonal profile already? So then you don't really need to adjust your base price. Are you just doing it like, and if you are adjusting it seasonally, then maybe you just need to revisit that base price once a year. And if you're adjusting it seasonally, are you doing it with percentages, or are you doing a fixed price base price adjustment? So like, it's really kind of a subjective question because it depends, especially with larger portfolios, what their current setup is. That's kind of the thing with like pretty much all dynamic pricing programs is like, they're all very subjective tools, and like, it's hard to answer a lot of questions with a broad answer because it really depends on like how each person works, what the property looks like, how many people are touching this account, what their strategies are, what market are you in. Like, so many behaviors are different, and you have to look at the combination of all of those things to like get to one answer, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Aviva, if people want to know more, about PriceLabs, who want to chat with you about things, what's the best way to reach you?
Support at pricelabs.co, I guess, is the answer to all of those questions.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
If you want, maybe drop a note there, say, especially Aviva, I want to connect with her as possible.
But
yeah.
everybody, we're all on webinars and go to conferences, and everybody helps out on support. And
that's so true.
Yeah.
Do you have any date, any conference you know about? Let's imagine, I think this will be probably sharing this podcast somewhere in mid-February. And you know any time you in mid-February, March, where you are, so people can find you?
I don't know March yet. I only know the beginning of February. I'm doing the virtual women's conference with Stacy St. John, who's, I don't know if I'm allowed to call her out, but she's amazing. So,
I love her. Fantastic. People don't know her.
She's fantastic. And that's also just a great conference. I love doing that one. I think I've done it every year for like the past 3 years. So it's, yeah, it's a great, uplifting, friendly, happy conference to do.
Great.
I don't know where else I'm going after that. I haven't talked about anything beyond February.
Yeah, so if you go to the PriceLabs.co website, there's the list of events we're going to be attending. So if you're curious to see, probably won't say exactly whether Aviva is going to be there or not, but you'll see where we're going to be. Go to the PriceLabs website resources. Aviva, thank you. Go ahead. What?
Oh, I was going to say, I do try to update LinkedIn when I go to conferences. I'm not super good at LinkedIn. I'm actually terrible at social media. But I try LinkedIn.
Sounds good. Aviva, thank you so much for your time today, for letting us know you a bit better, for your tips, on how to use PriceLabs and how to think, maybe also I should reach out because what's happening there, I need to talk to somebody at PriceLabs. That's such good advice. Such good advice.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Take care.
Bye.